Hello everybody and welcome to another Stellaris video. Today I'm really excited to show you guys the one system trade max build. Of course you can go wider for much funner benefits, but we're going to be trying to take on the 25x crisis with just one starting system, and to do this we're going to be using the incredibly powerful merchant guilds, and we're going to start with parliamentary system just as a means to get unity faster. We're going to go ahead and have militarist, egalitarian, and xenophile. All three of these ethics are picked for very specific reasons, and I'll explain here. Militarist is so that our civilian pops can produce the very much coveted naval cap, which will be a big struggle for us. In addition, egalitarian will be used so that we can run civilian bonuses with utopian abundance, and xenophile is here simply because we cannot be fanatic of anything because we want to switch to oligarchic and therefore be able to reform our government into that to get the maximum bonus from purity later on. In addition, we're starting with the Sol system with the life-seeded origin with a size 30 Gaia world. This will allow us to get 3 planets in our home system with our size 30 Gaia world, Mars, which is a size 13, and 1 additional habitat, which will give us the most possible space to work with. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So, as I mentioned before, we're going to take on the 25x crisis, and just to make it a little bit more challenging, we're going to send it 100 years early, and see what we can do with that in mind. It's definitely going to be a bit of a challenge. We're going to slide the habitable worlds back to 1.0 just to reduce late game lag, and we're playing on this 200 size galaxy once again to reduce late game lag. And I've done one additional trick here is I've put 2 megacorps in this galaxy that are guaranteed to spawn, and the entire point of those megacorps is so that they can build a commercial forum on my capital, giving me additional bonuses to trade, as I've given them civics that do that. And once we find them, I can show you that too. I believe one of them is like trading posts, and the other is, oh gosh, I forget the name, like I think franchising, but it might not be franchising, so don't quote me on that. It's just the bonuses that say they boost commercial forums is basically what we have and what we want for those megacorps. And yeah, with that in mind, let's go ahead and get started. Just like all trade builds, or all builds in general these days, you want to start with an Autochton monument, and you also want to go ahead and delete any buildings that are excess on your capital. And then we're also going to immediately go into living standards of utopian abundance, allowing our civilians to produce extra resources at the cost of consumer goods. And then, of course, mercantile for the extra trade, and civilian economy to get the maximum amount of consumer goods we can for this here early game. One thing that's nice is since we're never going to build another system, we don't need alloys at all, meaning we can go ahead and do something like 3 science ships and send them to explore the galaxy and hopefully make first contacts with those megacorps as early as we can. And essentially what we're just going to be doing is we're going to be converting our entire home planet into trade. We won't get Mars until much later on, as I believe it is a barren world or something like that, so we need to be able to terraform that. So we're going to have to basically hybrid our capital between trade and tech at some point, which will be a little bit difficult with the size of our homeworld before we get Ecumenopolis done, so that could be a bit of a challenge. However, we're going to be doing our best as we will scale very hard. We will be going Cosmogenesis for the maximum late game power. However, we need to get to late game first, which when you're playing a slightly weaker build like this it's definitely going to be a bit of a challenge. Anyhow, essentially our first goal will be to open into mercantile and adaptive economic policies to go ahead and boost our unity, and then use that unity to ascend as fast as possible. So we're going to be doing that. And I'll be back once we're getting closer to Ascension. Before we fully get ready to start ascending, I also want to share with you some planetary management things you can do to boost out your early game power, and that is simply disable every single job you don't need on your capital, such as we don't need metallurgists since we're not going to be expanding at all, and we don't need enforcers, we don't need bureaucrats, we don't need any of the researchers, we only need trade, and having these additional civilians will help us out more than having those jobs available. And yes, it does mean that our mineral income will suck. But since we're sticking with one planet for a very long time, we also don't need a particularly high mineral income, meaning we can just run our economy off mercantile alone. So, yeah, anyhow, also you see my unity is now 148. As I mentioned before, that is due to marketplace of ideas with our trade policy, and yeah, well, we're just going to go ahead and hopefully start scaling up. Welcome back, everybody. For your information, if you're curious what I'm doing, these are my first three traditions: mercantile, statecraft, and diplomacy. So, diplomacy is commonly thought of as a very, very shit tradition these days, and I would be fully in agreement with that. It is really not good. However, we are using diplomacy for the main reason that we really need to get into a trade fed to make this build work at all. And if we don't go into a trade fed, we're kind of dead in the water. And if you happen to spawn next to empires that are not very favorable with you, you will usually not be able to form a trade fed with anyone other than yourself. But since we're doing a one system challenge, we can't form a trade fed with ourselves. And in case you don't know what I'm talking about, if you want to form a trade federation with yourself, simply just colonize a planet that is 5 jumps or more away from you. So, like, if I were to colonize this tomb world, I could then create a sector as a vassal. So I could go into my planets and sectors, or like I could go to the planet, click on this button, it'd say create a new sector, and then I could release that sector as a vassal through this screen, and then release that vassal so that they're free, and then form a federation with that new empire that exists that I have created, and that is how you'd form a trade federation with yourself in single player. Since we are unfortunately unable to do that in this playthrough, we're going to have to form a fed with one of our neighbors. There does happen to actually be a merchant guild's empire here, but they're fanatic materialist, authoritarian. We're egalitarian, so they really don't have anything in common with us. These guys might want to trade fed with us, but it's going to be a stretch, as they're currently going to have, we're going to be missing a lot of trust and all sorts of other stats. And that is where diplomacy is going to really help us with the ability to get favors. And once we happen to stack up enough of these favors, we should be able to form a trade federation, which is very, very nice. Kind of regardless of what the other empire wants, which is quite funny, but well, we're going to need to do it. And okay, there's the Conrath Mercantile Union, actually, which is very nice. Where are they? Because I need to immediately create a commercial pact with these guys. So let's go ahead and establish an embassy. Let's send an envoy over. And I don't want to guarantee their independence because I don't want to be in a joint war with them. But if we just offer a trade deal of like a bunch of resources, like we have a lot of trade, right? So we could just send over like 10,000 trade or something, and let's see if that gives us enough relations in order to form a commercial pact. We need either positive relations or 20 trust. So we need just a little bit more relations, so I guess let's form a non-aggression pact. And we should be there pretty soon, like in just a couple months, and we should be able to form a commercial pact, which will also give us a nice extra source of trade from the commercial pact, because they will be producing a decent amount of trade, even as a unoptimized Grand Admiral AI commercial empire. And we get a few new neighbors here. Let's see if, whoa, that is a big bunch of fragments. But yeah, let's just establish embassies with all of them as well if we can, as we definitely want more embassies, because embassies give us unity through the diplomacy tradition, which is definitely something which we can take advantage of. Everyone but the Dar Junction will take an embassy with us, which is not bad. It's always been a little confusing to me that I started biogenesis, but I completely forgot to build the genomic research facility that will actually start the situation. So let's go ahead and do that now, before we forget. And oh yeah, let's also make sure we have these in the right order. And also evolving society. So very nice. Open arms should help us with forming a federation. So we're going to go ahead and do that now. And we're also making a decent amount of unity as well, as we just slowly progress through this biomorphosis situation. But yeah, the main goal right now will be diplomatic goals, right? Form a commercial pact with these guys, which should be any month now, and find somebody, which usually has to be nearby to us, to form a trade fed with us. Otherwise, the distance modifier will be too negative, and it's pretty sad that the two closest empires to us have very little in common with us ethically. So I don't think I'll be able to force a trade fed with this empire, for example, no matter what I do. Maybe this one is possible, as we do share militarist, although like materialist and egalitarian, they don't like contradict with each other, but they are definitely not beneficial either. 148 negative acceptance. Sheesh. Okay, we're gonna need to work on that, but we're gonna need to find a way to form a trade fed with somebody. Um, but in the meantime, we'll just be slowly ascending. All right, everyone. So we are now able to change our war philosophy, and therefore we should be able to form a Fed with these guys now. So we can form a trade league. Let's refresh these favors here. Let's just use the minimum amount of favors we need to actually get over the line. And I'm not going to bother to name it. And let's wait a couple turns, and now we shall become a trade Fed. And this will solve our energy problems. And in addition, it'll cut our consumer goods a bit, but by producing the amount of Unity we're going to be producing, this will allow us to continuously scale throughout the game instead of having to be stuck on Unity or something like that, which is, of course, very, very great. And now with the civilian education as well, we're actually producing a non-zero amount of tech, which is very important as well because our tech is a bit of a problem. So yeah, due to the fact we're still stuck on one planet, however, we are going to be at a very low amount of pop assembly, especially since we're not going to go cloning, and we are going to go purity for the late game pop efficiency. The slower pop production definitely, I would say, probably makes purity worse than cloning in multiplayer now, as cloning can easily get to like the 30s in pop growth, and having twice as many pops is simply better than having pops that are 50%, or not even 50%, but maybe like 30% more efficient. But we're going to take purity because we're in it for the long haul, and if we get our early crisis spawn, it's going to be a problem anyway. So let's go ahead and do that, and also finish out this purity tree. We should have more than enough Unity for the entire thing. So let's go ahead and finish that completely. And then also, since the fact we reformed our government to an oligarchy, we now get the eugenic hierarchy, a very, very powerful government type that gives us pop bonus efficiency per the absolute value of the amount of trait picks we use. So let's go ahead and max out the number of trait picks we use. As you can see, we already have shelled and seasonal dormancy, and essentially all we want to add to that is as much other trading traits as possible. We don't really want background, as background is finally nerfed to work properly, so we want fertile instead. And then we can probably pick something that helps with trade like thrifty, and go ahead and call that a pop template. And let's go ahead, and we don't even have to apply this template, we can just go ahead and set this as the default, right? So, and then we're gonna set the species rights of our original species to then integrate into this default subspecies, which is of course this nice efficient cat turtle here. And yeah, as you can see, we're now up to 17 pop assembly, which is decent. But more importantly, we have these super high efficiency pops that are going to let us scale much more quickly than we would otherwise be able to. Once again, we're going to get most of our tech through civilians, which is not the most efficient, I would say. However, we don't really have too many other options here, as I don't want to drop commercial nexuses. I guess I could drop one of these commercial nexuses and turn them into tech jobs as well, except I think we're just going to run the triple center of guidance here and then stack civilians on our capital, as many as we can sustain. And to be honest, we don't need any educators, so we can go ahead and deprioritize those. Yeah, let's deprioritize this completely. I don't think we'll need them. And just rely completely on these civilians in order to bolster our economy. As long as we have enough consumer goods, we're kind of good on this department. One thing we will have to do, which is a bit annoying, is we're going to have to get a source of volatile motes, which is a bit of a problem. Let's see if we happen to have discovered the enclave that sells them yet, as this is how I'm getting my gases currently, so I don't have to do the gas trait trick. In case you don't know the gas trait trick, if you need gases and you don't have them, go ahead and create a template, give it the inorganic breath, and just set that as the default template for like a few, like an in-game month or something, and then immediately switch your default back to your regular pop, and then it'll give you an income which you can then use to buy those exotic gases. And I think we have the galactic market actually. Wait, so I just remembered I can just buy motes, which is perfect actually, because let me upgrade these civilian education buildings. As we have tons of consumer goods and not enough tech, I think this is a good idea to boost up the efficiency of these civilians even more, and really get the tech rolling. As if we don't get tech rolling, we're going to really struggle. And also, we're going to take some unusual things here. I think we're going to go adaptability here. There's two reasons for this. One, we get one extra district, which is very nice. And the other one is enhanced recycling, reducing strategic resource cost is somewhat useful. But I think also this gives us the Conquer Nature agenda, which we can then use to unlock terraforming, and then terraform Mars quicker into the game so that we can actually start using that as a planet and have two planets before we get habitats as well, hopefully. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and do that. And first, however, finish the perfection protocols. Doubling your pop growth speed will be fantastic. Anyhow, like we're just going to continue to scale. We're basically just going to use the pop growth to stack into civilians and employ just enough traders to make this profitable. Our next tradition pick will definitely be an ECU as well, so that we can start building this ECU on our home capital. So we'll be back after some time has passed. All right, everyone. So we just finished the arcology project, technology and engineering here, anti-gravity engineering. And once this is done, you're basically ready to go ahead and take your fourth tradition pick, which for us is definitely going to be the arcology project here. And we essentially want to use this on this planet as soon as we can. And as you can see, it just so happens to be that we are almost done building all city districts on this capital here. We have two blockers to remove and then two more city districts after that. And at that point in time, we should have just about enough minerals as well to go click up. And as you can see, our tech is okay. 1.3 or 2k, 1.2k, something like that is okay for this stage of the game, or 1.1k. I was too lazy to do the exact math of how much I had. But it's definitely good, but not amazing. But yeah, we can't greed too hard with one planet. There's only so much we can do. If we build more tech, we wouldn't have basic resources, and if we build more basic resources, we won't have tech. And I think what we're doing right now is a pretty good mid ground. We don't have to build the target uplink computer anymore. Yeah, I was getting bombarded by void worms, which I'm sure everyone who has the latest DLC hates. But yeah, the way we dealt with it is we ended up rolling the gravity stairs technology, and then we could go snare them on our capital and finally stop the devastation from piling up. Anyhow, yeah, essentially all we're doing is we're stacking more and more civilians. We only have 4.5k actually because the number of traders we have is increasing. And once we have positive consumer goods, essentially we can just decrease the number of traders a bit. And yeah, we are burning through our trade surplus quite quickly. But there is also one more mercantile empire in here somewhere, right? And we can go ahead and form a commercial pact with these guys. Let's see if I ever got that holding on my capital. I haven't, which is really silly. These guys have a really OP branch office they could place on my capital whenever they want, except I think the AI reads it as too much influence or something, so they're not going to do it, even though they really should, as a holding on my capital would generate thousands and thousands of trade for them. Um, but yeah, anyhow, we're just going to keep on upgrading, and eventually we're going to go for Cosmogenesis and really start to scale from there. Welcome back, everybody. So it's been a little bit of a minute now, and we're here in year 64. And as you can see, we only have just over 3k tech, 300 alloys. Most of this is being bought or generated by the arc furnace. And we have a habitat going now, so we have a second source of pop growth, which is going to be very, very nice for us in the long run. And also, this planet here has been terraforming for a while now, which, in order to terraform a barren world, by the way, you just need the ecological reformatting tech. I forget what it's called. Let me scroll until I see it. It was quite a while ago, as you can see, but we're kind of moving through text quite fast. Yeah, climate restoration. There we go. And yeah, you just need to find that tech. And because of the kind of techs we're going through so far, and the most important ones we have to get still, they're all in the society tree, actually. So that habitat there, we're going to dedicate that to be a society research habitat for as long as I can do that. And then once we have kind of maxed out this society research that this habitat can make, why? Oh, that's built agriculture districts. Okay, we don't want to do that. Um, can we put any like main district here that would give us? No, all we can do is build agriculture districts here and then build actual research labs on this district here. Okay, that makes sense. That kind of sucks a little bit, but yeah, we're going to focus mostly on society research here. And the reason we need to do that is the most important Fallen Empire buildings we need will be in society to max out this trade. And you may be wondering, how are we going to take on a 25x crisis with these numbers? Because this is not nearly enough, right? The Unity is good, the tech is decent, but the alloys is not there. So how are we going to manage that? And the real answer is once we manage to get access to the Fallen Empire buildings, we're going to have like 100 pop growth on every planet. And we're going to run like that for a while with 300 pop growth across our 3 planets. And then that will fill us up with civilians, which will produce the technology we need to scale without needing a technology habitat. Then I can probably dedicate this size 13 world here to be an alloy planet primarily, and turn that into an alloy ecumenopolis, and then we can buy 5,000 alloys from the market once our trade ecumenopolis is full and maxed out. As you can see, most of these jobs are disabled currently so that they can be civilians producing tech. I will mention that it might actually, and probably is actually, more efficient to, instead of run civilians, to just produce the research directly via something like a society research specialization, and then just allow much less civilians and just focus on each tech individually. Except I'm quite lazy, so I don't really want to micro anything, which is why we're just running with the civilian economy instead. And the tech is still not bad and requires much less micro. And I think we should be in time for a year 100 crisis anyway, with the, I would say, recommended 10,000 tech and 10,000 alloys per month. And then I would also want to try to get to 10,000 nav cap, which might be the largest challenge here. We can run this habitat as a bastion main, but if we go with our planet as a bastion planet, we probably won't get quite enough, which is why it is so important to be militarist. As you can see, we have 300 nav cap, and most of this, I believe, should be from let's see the sources of this: supremacy traditions, fleet support, galactic force projection, from pops plus 88, right? And that is from having 8,000 civilians on this world here, along with the hypercom forums. Well, once we have much more pops, say 50k civilians on each one of our structures here, which is also why, if we take a look at our species template, we have the shelled trait reducing housing usage by 75%, allowing us to actually fit 50,000 civilians on every planet. We're probably going to be able to get at least 1,000 nav cap, if not more, just from pops, which I think will be pretty cool. I'll kind of see if that's a practical thing to do or not. It might turn out it's completely impractical and stupid, and we just have to run an alloy, or turn our alloy planet into a bunker planet, which could be the case, but we'll find out when that happens. And welcome back, everybody. So, we just got the technology for Molecular Revitalization Institute, and this is the most important Fallen Empire building that we are looking for. I would say, relatively unfortunately, we rolled this quite late, so we only have 25 years until a year 100 crisis spawns to really accelerate the scaling, because at 4k tech and 400 alloys, we would not be ready for any sort of endgame crisis at this point in time. However, we should be able to get up to the ability to, deal with an endgame crisis once we get this pop growth up, as the 15 to 20 pop growth we're typically getting on all of our planets is simply not enough. And by accelerating ourselves via having tons of these molecular revitalization institutes will help a crazy amount. And in addition to helping with pop growth, it'll also give us a source of a massive amount of society tech, which will allow us to really scale into the late game. As you can see, we're just going to cover every single slot of every single planet that we have that is available with these revitalization institutes, as it's just going to be fantastic. And yeah, we don't have to worry about other things like these buildings here. Destroy them. Don't need them. You can be a molecular revitalization institute, and we can go ahead and cancel all these other buildings as well. It does look like we can't build them on the support districts, which is a bit of a shame. And we also cannot build them on the research districts, which is a bit unfortunate for habitats. But that habitat will probably be dedicated to naval cap later. I don't even know if we need Cosmogenesis level 5, but we'll go ahead and take it there. And yeah, this planet, we also just kind of got access to it. We're going to have to try to build this up into an ecumenopolis as fast as possible, which will also involve using these molecular revitalization institutes. I don't know, are we buying enough gases? Let's just like dump a crazy amount of trade to buy a couple more of these, as I just want to get this going as fast as possible. Um, let's just build like 4 of them here, and yeah, as these start to build, we should start to see faster and faster pop assembly. If we take a look at our capital, it was 20 before, it's 26 now, and it will continue to spike as we increase the number of these across our empire and upgrade them to tier 2 as well. So yeah, finally we should start to be able to accelerate now and really get this build rolling into the late game. And yeah, these are kind of my final traditions. I think for a trait, I'm actually going to take Voidborn for a single habitat, as we don't need megastructures, simply because where are we going to build any megastructures? I mean, we could build a couple in our home system, so maybe Galactic Wonders is good, but there's really nothing else to do megastructure wise. And of course, we want the endgame faction crisis pick as well. So, what is that called? Where is it? Where is it? I'm not even sure if I can take it with my civics, to be honest. But or do we already have it? Galactic Force Projection, no. There's one civic that's or tradition, sorry, that is specifically meant for endgame crisis faction damage, and I guess I don't know why I don't see it anywhere here, but we should have access to it once we're done the Ascension perks as well. Once we're done Prosperity. So anyhow, yeah, we're finally gonna start scaling quickly now. It's been a slow grind, but yeah, with the 30 pop assembly and increasing rapidly, you can see why this is gonna be very strong. Welcome back, everybody. It's now slightly past when the crisis should have spawned, but as usual, it is late. However, we are starting to build up relatively significant fleets, but we are still lacking quite a bit. One thing that we're missing quite a bit of right now is still alloys. Our alloy ecumenopolis is still not complete. A lot of buildings left to go, a lot of specializations left to be had. So there's that. And the other thing is, we should probably take control of this tech. Oh, this is already finished. Yeah, okay, nice. We have the tier 2 dimensional fabricator. But one thing we probably need to take care of now is our capital is mostly been focused on pop growth. We are making 250 pops a month, and we are definitely stacking up a very large amount of these traders and civilians, which is great. However, we're going to kind of like we're not out of space on our capital yet, but it's not making as much trade as it should. Well, it's making 70,000 trade, but believe it or not, it can be making a lot more than that. And basically, what we're missing is the buildings that give the Galactic Commercials Hub. Basically, these buildings give a lot more trade um, per pop than these molecular revitalization institutes give. And the result is you get a lot more trade if you have these and a lot less pop growth. So what we actually want to do at some point is move all these different bioregeneration institutes into these galactic commercial hubs or interstellar commerce hubs, and that will give us the maximum possible trade in the late game, and we should get somewhat close to 200,000 trade per tick. Simply from that, and that will be really excellent, because right now we need more alloys, and we could be buying 3,000 more alloys per month. Yes, we are already buying nearly 2,000 alloys per month, but to be honest, that is not quite enough to max out our shipyard speed, which isn't even very fast. That being, we only have these 6 shipyards, the 3 on this or 4 on this ring, and I've decided to put 2 on this ring world on our capital, and I believe that is essentially all. Whoa, what is this storm over my capital? It is huge. Monthly devastation for 2 years. Okay, that's not so bad. But yeah, that is an enormous storm right there. Yep. Anyhow, like our Bastion Station here is basically done. It only gives 3,000 nav cap, so we are going to be significantly over our nav cap as we scale up to fight the crisis. Or though maybe with Enigma battlecruisers, we won't need to have that much over naval cap to beat a 25x crisis. My last crisis run went pretty well, but I do believe that we got one of the easier ones, and if we get one of the more difficult ones, could be a bit of a challenge. As you can see, we also have just a ridiculous amount of uh, tech now. We're getting like 30k from these civilians, basically 24k just from civilians, and I think that means we should start to switch over to commercial Nexus hubs because as we get a higher and higher amount of pops on this capital, our planet isn't going to be able to handle them unless we get more trade, right? As we are selling 600 consumer goods right now, but if we cancel that, we're still going to be quite negative on consumer goods, and we're going to need to increase our trade in order to turn that into the positive. And it's going to run away really quickly, so we got to be very, very careful with our timings here. Um, Over here on this world, like we're only getting 30 pop growth, and I believe the most efficient thing to do in terms of alloys would actually be to cover this entire planet with the tier 2 alloy fabricator, whatever it's called. I don't even think we've happened to have unlocked it yet, which is a little bit unlucky. Let's take a look. Um, yeah, we don't have it. We should probably take over our tech and engineering tech manually until we get access to the Hyperforge. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, the Hyperforge. But before we get the Hyperforge, we can use all commercial zones and then do all molecular revitalization institutes on this planet, and then also turn this planet into kind of a mini pop growth zone where we can continue to produce civilians at a very, very high speed, which can be nice for our overall economy. And one thing we always want to make sure you have on these zones is you want to make sure you have an autochthon monument on a planet where you're planning to make a lot of civilians, as that autochthon monument will almost certainly produce more than it's worth in navcap and other things just from pops, as we're going to have so many civilians on these planets. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and put autochthon monuments on all of our planets which have excess civilians now, which we haven't done until now, except for on our capital, where of course we have been stockpiling civilians, where we have nearly 100,000 pops on this one planet, which is quite cool. But yeah, oh my god, our alloys have capped in the time we've been talking. Yeah, as you can see, we produce resources at a really fast speed, and it's actually our dark matter that is not quite keeping up, but it's very easy to have dark matter. We just go ahead and purchase it. Um, we're already purchasing quite a large amount by default, but we should purchase more to make sure we continuously use all the alloys that we have. And at this point, I'm just going to skip until the crisis spawns, because otherwise all I'm going to be doing is trying to remember to build ships whenever our storage is full, although knowing me, I will forget at points and overflow. But yeah, that's all we're going to be doing. Hey guys, I just wanted to say I'm getting very bored waiting for the crisis to spawn. It is 23:25, and can we not just make the crisis spawn when it says it's going to, like at year 2300? Anyhow, small rant aside, as you can see, our fleet power is not very large, only 3.5 million. Last time I took on the crisis, I had 10 million, and I will say that that was honestly more than I needed. We hardly took any losses, so like maybe a smaller amount would be more interesting, but if I'm being completely honest, it's not kind of deliberate. We kind of have as many fleets as we have, and I'm actually doing my best to produce them as fast as possible, so I guess the crisis delay could be seen as a good thing. But in reality, I probably more than likely would have had enough time to build up at least this many fleets during the crisis event, which would have definitely made it more interesting and more close than if it spawns much later and I have like 10 million fleet by then. One thing I've been doing is I've been slowly adding these hyperforges, which I finally have access to, across my alloy planet. This is giving me quite a big boost to the alloys. I think it was only at 1.3 thousand before, and now we're over 3,000 from this tiny little size 13 at Cumulonipolis. On our capital, it's basically maxed out now. All we have to do is rebuild the orbital ring, because funny how that infinity thesis works is sometimes it just does funny things to your to your orbital, like to your empire. This time it destroyed my orbital ring. I couldn't tell you why. However, we do need to rebuild this now, as that will help us quite a bit. And like, here's some other small bonuses we can do to our capital. As if we take a look at it, it's making 116,000 trade. This might seem quite good, but if I'm being completely honest, it is kind of weak. And what you want to do to increase this even further is, did our leader die? That's pretty rare these days. Is first of all, the Galactic Stock Exchange is a very good building, but we want to move that off our actual planet and onto the orbital ring. So let's go ahead and add that orbital stock exchange. And then there's a Giga Mall somewhere, and we should be able to build that. Maybe it needs a tier 2. Yeah, the Giga Mall, here we go. We want to build one of those as well. And that will just give us kind of the maximum possible bonuses to our world. I think the last major bonus would be you want to get more commercial packs with the AIs, but they're starting to hate us mostly because of our crisis progress, and they've broken the commercial packs we initially had. The other thing is, if you take a look at the AIs I put in this game, they have trading posts and franchising. These both make planets with commercial forums on them, which we do happen to have here, because the AI will almost always build a commercial forum on your capital. Um, that's pretty good, but you can actually make that building even better by having what's it called? Gigacorp? No. Let me reform my government just to remind myself what it's called. But I should be able to find it pretty fast. Knowledge mentorship. There we go. This also boosts the efficiency of commercial forums, which can increase our trade even more. And then, last but not least, I believe, I think the last thing we can do would be to put a trader liaison on our government. I completely had forgot until very late game, so we're gonna pass this reorganized council, and then we can go ahead and go director of trade, level 10 leader. Then we want a trader liaison, and this guy is not going to be a level 10 leader, so he could get even more efficient than what he is now. Let's just put a Minister of Research back in so we don't have terrible research speed. Minister of Defense is, of course, very important this late into the game. And if we had another counselor slot, we would do something that could fit another strategist, but we can't. So instead, we'll either put a scientist or an official. And official is, of course, great for trade, so we can do that. And then, of course, passing certain agendas would increase our trading efficiency. And, well, we have a rare crystal shortage. I didn't even notice. Let's go ahead and solve that. Yeah, we can just like buy a massive amount of the rare resources that are holding us back. And honestly, we cannot afford to buy these 3,000 or 5,000 alloys per month. I think you would be able to if I had done a better trade focused build. In that sense, which means I would have, if I had a dedicated research planet, what I would do is I would delete these 3 centers of guidance and even this hypercom forum off this planet to get that many extra interstellar commerce hubs, which would give a nice additional bonus to the efficiency of the traders on here. We're up to 120,000 now, and we could expect this to climb to like 170,000 if we had more optimized this planet from the early game. To be a trade only planet. However, this is already a pretty excessive amount of trade. Yes, we can't max out a 5k alloy buy, but with just a small Ecumenopolis here, we're now producing more ships than I think most empires would reasonably be able to need, in the sense that even if you're fighting 25x and maybe even beyond crisis paths, you're going to run into lag issues if you keep this up for too long. So yeah, with that in mind, I'm going to put a hard limit. If it's 2350 and the crisis hasn't spawned, I'm going to end the video there. If not, we'll go ahead and take it on, although at this point I suspect it would be somewhat trivial to defeat with these super high-tech fleets, even though there's only 4 million of them. Just the sheer technological superiority, and I can't imagine how long these tachyon lances are getting as well. It shouldn't be too difficult, and we can even buy just like some more crystals, just 10,000 crystals just like that, because why not? We're making plus 6k trade now, so we need to actually buy more of these alloys. What is that alloy price right now? Like 20? Yeah, I've never seen it go like far past 30. But like 21 even seems not great. And if you had more planets, what you could do to make it even easier to buy more alloys is every single one of these buildings you have galactic stock exchanges, either the one in the ring or the one that goes directly on your planet, both count. They decrease or increase the market efficiency by 5%. So you can actually get some pretty efficient alloys out of trade up to a limit of 5,000 if you have more planets than I do, right? And you can max that out as well. And in addition, well, yeah, like obviously I'd recommend alloy ecus instead of trade ECUs for producing alloys. But if we take a look at this tiny ECU, yes, it makes 3,000 alloys. This could theoretically make up to 5,000 alloys if it wasn't also making close to 30,000 tech. And I'm also going to be completely honest with you guys. I would highly recommend, if you're actually playing a build like this, not on a one system challenge, but instead you leave the planet filled up with these bioregeneration institutes that give the pop efficiency bonuses, because your civilians will be so much more efficient, or any other jobs you have, per pop, which is honestly more important, because you get a ton of extra research and less trade. But you don't need this much trade if you have a real alloy ECU, as you're going to produce more than enough consumer goods. We're selling 8,000, and also more than enough energy credits than you could realistically ever need, with the amount of efficiency stacking we have. If we take a look at the traders, let's take a look at, I believe if you hover over this or somewhere, it'll say how much each one is producing. 448 trade per pop, right? Truly ridiculous thing to look at. I don't know if that number is right, but 60,000 pops making 120,000 trade, is that 500 per pop? Could be. Math is hard. But yeah, freaking insane. Anyways, now we're just gonna go await the crisis now. Quick update. I'm sure, or maybe some of you guys have already left a comment. I am very stupid. You can actually buy or sell far more resources than I thought. You can only do like 5,000 alloys per trade, but you can just add another monthly buy of like 5,000 more alloys, and that would work. However, we can't even afford 5,000, so yes, it would be valuable to produce and like theoretically like infinite amount more trade if you could. Unfortunately, we can't do that, as going infinite is not as easy as it was before. Although I reckon it is still not too difficult if you focus on pop assembly, and I definitely do. What the? I want to sell a maximum amount of consumer goods. Add slash edit, and then let's add another one of these consumer goods cells, because we just are producing way too many consumer goods, and if we can sell any of them, I'm happy about it. And yeah, in case you don't know what I mean by going infinite, it's basically a state where you have so many resources you can't spend any of it. It feels like you're going to infinity. I reckon it is still pretty easily possible with machines. I'm not sure how long it would take, and I reckon it wouldn't be hard with purity either, if you had more planets. However, if you need too many planets to make it happen, is it really that useful? But I'm not sure. Like, I think a couple EQs styled like this, and then just a couple focused on alloys would probably do it. Um, but I'm not sure, right? I'm not sure. But I have to try it out. I have to do some experiments, and these videos take a long time already as is. And as you can see on fastest, we're just crawling along, at least by my computer standards. So, yeah. All right, guys, like it's 23:50. I'm getting very tired here, sitting here waiting for the crisis to spawn. But I think we can call it here. My fleets are over 1 million strong each. It would not be difficult to beat a 25x crisis with a 10 million stack fleet, um, which will not take many losses due to the extreme artillery range that we're working with here. So I guess we're going to call it here. Apparently, you could basically guarantee the crisis by waiting up to 100 years, um, as the chance goes up by like 4 times every 50 years or something like that. But the fact it's not guaranteed means, like, man, I don't know why it isn't. I will definitely set this crisis spawn year to year 75 next time, learning from my mistakes here. But I thought we might accidentally, if we did get a year 75 spawn, I mean, I would be barely able to fight anything at all. So it's a bit of you win some, you lose some. Anyhow, this was a very strong build, and it was definitely pretty fun. Ooh, what? Wow, is this the crisis event? I guess we'll play it. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna skip until this spirals into something. Well, that was some crazy timing, guys. The Unbidden is here, so I know I have all crisis on, but I'm just gonna go take on one, as I am not interested in taking on multiple at this point, as it would simply take too long. So instead, we're going to go ahead and take on just the Unbidden here, and go from there. I guess we'll play in fast if we can until we get closer. But yeah, we gotta simply fly our fleets across the galaxy here and move our way over. We have a wormhole too, which is nice, or a gateway actually. These eight Grand Admirals have been busy building megastructures, which I of course cannot build due to being trapped in one system, which is my home system, which can't fit anything. And what happens if you like try to take out the Unbidden like before it even goes anywhere? I don't actually know how that works. We should probably slow down just in case we don't have sensors and we're about to like fly into like a giga stack fleet or something like that. And we do jump into a fleet of 5 million here. Let's watch this battle. I reckon it should be decently one-sided. Although, yeah, our tachyon lances aren't destroying them instantly, so they must have a good amount of shield, and they do. Except our missiles and kinetic should be firing anytime now and taking care of that. Look at the number of missiles, by the way. Oh my god, the swarmer missiles are crazy. And they actually did a decent amount of damage to us. I'll give it to them. I definitely took more damage there than I expected to. And whoa, I don't even think we can jump into that. That is very stacked, and I think we need to undoom stack that to have a chance, to be honest. Um, yeah, I'm not sure we can take on a stack of Unbidden Fleet that large, to be honest. Oh, and they're flying in piecemeal, so I guess they're taking care of that for us, although we are melee with them, which is definitely not a good thing for the size of our ships, or for our fleet strength here. We're going to take a lot of losses, maybe. Yeah, we lost 1,000 naval cap because our fleets went... wow, we're taking a lot of losses here. On the bright side, now I can click the reinforce all button. Let's go, instead of having to micro that, and whoa, we're taking on a lot of fleets at once. I'm curious if this was more than we could chew, or if this was actually just a very time efficient way to take care of the Unbidden. And it does look like we're taking pretty massive losses, as we're down to 1,000 nav cap, and that is actually like 50 years worth of nav cap gone, right? So that's a bit of a problem, to be honest. I think we'll retreat the rest of our fleets here. Spam the retreat button. I don't know why it doesn't retreat every fleet at once, but yeah, we're gonna need that. We're gonna need those fleets there. And yeah, we jumped into the death ball, and that definitely didn't work out in our favor. But we did a lot of damage as well. I'm kind of curious. Situation log. Where is the Unbidden? Victory? Nope. Unbidden? Nope. Where's the Unbidden? Do we not get an Unbidden crisis? Okay. Well, we're going to need to rebuild fleets, right? And in order to do that, we're going to need a ton of alloys. And right now, we only have 4,000 extra trade. And yeah, once again, we're really getting bitten by this tiny EQ problem. Like, to be honest, this build would be much better if I made this tiny planet the trade planet, and this very large one, the alloy EQ. As an alloy EQ this large would probably be making 10,000 alloys per month, which is probably preferable to what we have here. Anyhow, I think if we're careful, 1,200 nav cap, that's probably like 3 million fleet power. And like, to be honest, it probably should be enough. We just need to be careful and take on the fleets like a 5 million bunch at a time, and then we'll have better luck with that. But I'm just gonna like spend the next couple years rebuilding a little bit, as we're gonna need these fleets to unstack anyway and spread out, and I'm gonna need some time to rebuild these fleets. So we'll be back in like 5 or 6 years. Oh, guys, I'm so silly. The reason why I didn't see the Doom stack is normally this late into the game, I play with all my edicts on, and for whatever reason, I hadn't turned on the crystalline sensors at the time for the +1 sensor range. Therefore, I kind of flew in blindly, where I'm not usually doing that. So that was a very costly mistake, and in addition to that, all my other edicts were off as well, which of course added up to probably quite a big difference in fleet power. And that cost us a lot of time, as it's going to take, like, our rate of alloys is very slow. We should probably We definitely need more. Like having like 20k alloys would be much more preferable to like the 6 7k we're dealing with now, and having like a trade deficit while doing it. Um, However, we got to work with what we got, and I'm very curious, to be honest, if this can take on one of these smaller unbidden fleets, like the 4 millions or 5 millions. I reckon it can, just because of the probably large range advantage we have, and if we don't accidentally end up in melee with them, we should have better luck. So I'm going to jump back in here and just kind of see what happens. Maybe it's a bit too fast to be jumping in again. Um, and well, like the where did the fleets go? I honestly hate these hyper relays. They make your ships pop around so fast. I guess that's nice if you're moving them around a lot, but if you have jump drives and you don't want to jump around that much, I just get confused at where they're going so quickly. Um, yeah. Anyhow, let's take a look at how a much more reasonably sized fleet fares against like the Starbase, for example, and see if we take any losses at all. And I don't think we should. 1400 nav cap. Um, as I believe we're just like outranging by such a crazy margin, right? Like, yeah, it looks fine. I'm not even like, I guess are we taking damage? I don't know. Um, it's taking way longer than I thought to kill the starbase here. So yeah, I guess it is putting up some resistance, and I don't think we lost any ships though, which is a good sign. And I guess that means we can just continuously go into our fleet manager and spam the reinforce all button. And yeah, as you can see, we're also kind of lacking in ship build speed, as we do have a queue, and oh, we're fighting another unbidden fleet now. This looks like a little piecemeal 3 million, although they did get into melee of us. And do we even take losses? Yeah, this is what I expected, is if we take on the smaller unbidden fleets, instead of a like doom stack like we did originally in melee, this honestly should be enough ships to take them out, if we're careful with navigating them and not doing anything too clumsy, which is my MO, to be honest. I do very clumsy things with my stacks of fleets, as I don't spend very much time fighting compared to the amount of time I spend messing around with economies instead of fleets, right? Because I don't know. It's the part of the game I find fun, I guess. And oh, are we about to get collapsed on? Yeah. I guess we're gonna exchange places there. As So the problem is when the unbidden come through the portal, they're gonna spawn in melee range of me. Yeah, and that's gonna deal a crazy amount of damage. Yeah, look at our nav cap. It is completely gone. Um. Uh oh. Uh oh. Uh oh. Uh oh. Uh oh. Well, just as I was saying, we did something very clumsy. Very clumsy. There goes 1,000 nav cap. That is really, really bad. Um, as now we won't be strong enough to even take on a single unbidden fleet, which means we have to rebuild to the state we were at before before they take over the whole galaxy, which could be a little bit tough. It could be really tough, to be honest. So yeah, we're gonna go ahead and do that. And this might actually take 5 years. That is so annoying. Oh no, 500 nav cap of ships left. I'm so stupid. I'm so stupid. Yeah, like we just can't be melee range with them, and we gotta take them on linearly. I guess I should have flown through the hyper lanes normally instead of jumping in through the wormhole, because that would put us in between two potential places. So silly of me to do that. But I guess at least we're producing more alloys now, as we're upkeeping much less ships. Although this is going to take forever to rebuild, so I'll be back in a bit. Alright, bit of an emergency here, is the Unbidden have jumped real close to us. We lost some tiny fleet here, or will lose that tiny fleet, but we have a 1.7 million fleet here at home, kind of ready to take that on, so I guess we'll go normal speed for a bit, and see what we're working with ships-wise. I believe, is this a visual bug, or is there actually ships there fighting? Oh, there's actually ships there fighting. Are they getting kited hard? That is pretty funny. Um, Not that getting kited by a fleet this size probably does anything. I'm very curious. I've been told that you can basically beat the Unbidden with missiles that outrange them, um, with microscopic fleets if you're able to kite them forever. It doesn't look like that's happening. Oh, Oh, that is a lot more unbidden fleets. We might just be losing against the unbidden here, which would be pretty funny after all that big talk I had about it being trivial. And to be honest, it should have been trivial, but I find a way to mess it up. Um, yeah, it would have been much better to take these guys on separately, of course. But we're gonna fly in and see what we can do here, and maybe they'll split up. So let's actually wait a turn. But I also don't want more to fly in. And I think it's also probably better to camp a hyperlane, right? Whoa, 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 whoa. Okay. Oh, when I saw ships moving so fast, I got scared. Um, yeah, I think or it's probably better to camp in the middle of a system, right? Because that way, if we're on a hyperlane, they can't, when I'm not paying attention, jump in. And this fleet is certainly kiting for a really long time. That is pretty impressive. How is it still alive? Is it evading everything, or is it like I don't know what's going on. This is crazy. There's like 12 million fleet chasing this 129k around, and it's gone. Uh, that was funny. Oh my god, some of it is still there. Never mind. Look at it go. Look at him go. And one thing I want to make sure is I want to make sure my edicts are still. If anybody knows what's going on with this behavior, please let me know. I am not expert enough on ships to actually know what the ships specifically are doing in order to make this happen. Like what is going on? Like what is this? You know what I mean? Like is this whose ship is this? Are these all my ships, but they're just like this spread out in the system at this point? Like where are these ships coming from too? This is crazy. Um, Anyhow, let's remember to click the reinforce all button every now and then. Why is my nav cap not increasing? What? Or have we just not elapsed enough time yet for that? It's probably we haven't elapsed enough time. I should really make sure I have more edicts on because I have infinite unity. Fleet supremacy. Yes, I don't know why we don't have that on. Nutritional plentitude. We have plenty of nutrition. Tracking implants. Guess we don't really need that. Don't need any of the industrial subsidies. No, we don't need that. Land of opportunity. Don't really need that. Hunker down protocols. Don't need that. Don't need consumer. No, I had a good leader in there. Oh man, I'm silly. Uh, well, let's see what happens here. I guess they should jump, and I don't think we're gonna be able to fight this fleet off because it is enormous. Honestly, we should have fought in a system where I have some sort of range boost, and that would help quite a bit. But oh, did they jump piecemeal? Is that one fleet, or is that all of their fleets in one tiny little bunch? Also, what is this Federation fleet doing? It's gonna get absolutely blasted here. It's not getting blasted as fast as I thought, to be honest, but okay, it's dead. Whoa. Did we kill the entire fleet there? Was there not like 10 million? Is this what happens when we properly kite, or did some of them fly away? I missed what even happened there. I thought this was the end, but it turns out we're doing pretty good. So, oh no, there's 8 million here. Let's check where they are on the hyperlanes. I'm very scared about this now because we've seen what they can do when we don't have anywhere to fly. Um, and I do like the idea of camping in the middle of a large system, as this will give us way more space to kite around, as that seems to be the main problem here. And yeah, here we go. If we get a long range engagement, these seem to go much, much better. Uh, yeah, let's see what happens here. And we should be engaging any second now. And this is an 8 million fleet, so it's quite a lot bigger. And I want to see our ships starting to kite backwards here. As I know when these guys get in close, they're going to absolutely eviscerate us. And those Federation fleets are not looking too great. And yeah, okay, so I think I watch battles so little in Stellaris that I've never even observed this kind of behavior, but I guess these are the battleships. And the position of the fleet marker is actually the average position of all the actual battleships, which is very confusing because it's very hard to tell what's going on as somebody who doesn't watch a lot of fleet battles. But that seemed to be completely dominant because it seems like the unbidden ships just could not catch up to our ships and get into melee range thanks to the kiting behavior. And whoa, 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 whoa. See, this is the dangerous part. We don't want to accidentally jump. And we want to camp in the middle. And this is another thing why I don't like hyper relays is I get really confused where my ships are actually going to exit and enter the systems from. Um, and I guess, yeah, those guys are going to jump through the hyper relay, which will actually put them over there, which is super confusing. And then my battleships start firing, which is good. Why are these guys not engaging? I'll manually send them in. Um, and yeah, okay, I think I'm starting to understand how the combat mechanics actually work just from watching a few battles here. Uh, at least ones where I'm winning. I'm sure if I was losing, I wouldn't understand why. Um, this is great. Yeah, like it turns out you don't even need 1,000 nav cap to beat a 25x crisis if it's an unbidden crisis, guys. I know I am Cosmogenesis ships, but from what I understand, you can do the exact same thing without battle cruisers and with regular battleships. I mean, battle cruisers just appear to be 2x cruisers, um, but to be honest, they're not even as good because regular battleships get um, just as many missile slots and large artillery slots. They just get 2x slots, which is will be very nice against some of the crises, but I'm not sure Unbidden is one of them. I did watch that Monty video on what ships are good against what crises, and I do remember that it is very advisable to use a ship design that includes tachyon lances, whirlwind missiles, and advanced striker. Oh, we do get twice as many whirlwind missile slots. So I guess yeah, these are just like basically twice as efficient as uh, real. Oh, this system is tiny, but I think it's still more than large enough to get the kiting behavior really. Or maybe it's not tiny, and maybe the system's actually larger, which is why it appears the ships are closer, which would make sense. Um, it's just so weird to see the fleet markers in melee, but the actual ships are way out in the distance. Um, and that is something I don't think I've ever paid attention to in the past. And it makes the kiting behavior make a lot more sense because sometimes you don't really see the ships kiting themselves, um, and that is definitely pretty confusing. Um, but yeah, it looks like we are able to like take on these crisis ships with just this 1.9 million of fleet power, about 1,000 nav cap, and we're not gonna have a very large problem as long as we don't do what we did earlier and suicide them. So yeah, this is gonna be some careful cleanup here. But yeah, we're gonna go through, try not to fly into melee, and if I do, I will cut to that happening so you guys can laugh at me. I don't know how long I've had it paused, guys, but I meant to unpause it. And the reason is I keep taking lossy fights. Like, despite, I think, now understanding the meta with these Unbidden, where you just want to outrange them at all costs, I believe the Unbidden is probably the weakest crisis in this case because you can really take any class of ship that can equip whirlwind missiles and then just kite them with it. Um, with artillery computers, right? I think that's pretty important. So I'm gonna run a little experiment here, which is I have made a ship fleet that I intend to be literally just these cruisers. And what these cruisers are is this range class, which is just naked, double afterburner for speed, artillery combat computer with whirlwind missiles across the board. And obviously, we want it to be fast, so we're going to put the rest of that stuff on. And I'm very, very curious to see how well these naked cruisers are going to do against the Unbidden because I simply need a faster and cheaper fleet. Um, yeah, these Enigma battle cruisers are both very expensive and take a very long time to build. Although I know they're good against all the different crises paths, so they're useful in that sense. No matter which crises had spawned, they would have been useful. Where now I'm gonna be kind of custom building ships that are meant just for the Unbidden here, and they definitely have a lot of ships that are kind of branching out everywhere. So this is gonna be a bit of a pain in the ass to take care of, but we're gonna work on it. Um, and yeah, if you see these fights that start kind of under my terms, we should not lose a single naval cap here as we fight. As you can see, this well maybe you can't because they're tiny, but these little fucking battleships here, at least little compared to the galaxy here, are just kiting the hell out of the actual main Unbidden fleet, which is just getting mowed down and farmed. When the engagement goes as planned, it seems to me that the main concern with the Unbidden is just event like sometimes you just end up not paying attention because I'm me, and you end up in melee range, and you just like that lose a few hundred naval cap, which takes like a year of alloys to rebuild, which is a lot of alloys, and just a lot of time, right? So yeah, it seems that we really do want to catch these fleets at range and just be very careful when advancing not to advance into the fog or near fog of war. And then just what I've been doing is I've been flying to within one jump of the unbidden, and then they kind of will target your ships, um, and then you just let them fly into you, and that's how I've been beating them. Except for the fact that sometimes I just jump into them and die. But yeah, we're gonna keep doing this until hopefully we beat the crisis. Hey, I just wanted to record this because this is one of the bigger fleets coming in. Um, and yeah, this will be 15 million, and I'm curious if we can fight this losslessly. As you can see, we've taken some losses here. Actually, we're down to 512 as I just continuously fail to kite them properly. But I'm kind of curious to see if there's a limit to like the number of unbidden ships we can take on before we just start taking losses. And I think we started at 552 nav caps. So I'm really curious to see what we'll end up with here with 14 million unbidden ships here, and it would be crazy if we could do this one lossless as well. But it honestly looks like that might be the case, as they're just kind of stuck flying around the middle here with no clue which direction to chase, and their AI is just getting completely farmed, actually, which is pretty insane to look at. One thing I noticed here, and I have no idea why, is some of my like buildings unbuilt, and I don't know if that's because the unbidden got near and started hitting my planets when I wasn't looking or something like that. Um, but we're rebuilding them now, so we should be okay. But that included my storage districts, so I did lose some resources from that, which annoyed me. Um, anyhow, yeah, wow, we can actually beat. I mean, we took some losses, right? It wasn't completely free, but it was really overpowered. That's for sure. And why do I have a Corvette fleet here? Okay, whatever. I don't know what the AI is doing. Where is my cruiser fleet? It hasn't even started building yet. It's just stuck behind an infinite queue of battle cruisers or something. And yeah, this is the downside of not having enough shipyards, as that is a big restriction too. Having just the shipyards galactic station moved. Okay, cool. I didn't even have the galactic market. I didn't realize that. And wow, this battle is still going. Crazy. Yeah, it looks like basically anytime they manage to touch us at all, we get one shot. But if they get kited, you can defeat an infinite-sized unbidden fleet as long as they don't happen to ever get in range of you. So you do want to fight in a large system, and you don't want to fight near hyperlanes. And if you fulfill those conditions, these ships have some crazy effectiveness, which is very cool. Alright, guys, I'm getting bored of picking off fleets, so I am sending it. We are going fast, we are hyperlaning, or what are these called? Are these hyperlane? Hyper jump drives? Hyper relaying. Ah, that's the word I was looking for. We're gonna hyper relay all the way towards their home system now because I am so tired of waiting for ships to build. And yeah, like I take almost no losses with the 800 nav caps I do have. And it is just a matter of not accidentally getting into melee range and clicking reinforce all every now and then. Um, and I'm also getting a little bit trolled by certain things, as I've realized what I was getting trolled by is attempt to bend the rules of reality, which has definitely caused some chaos around my world, like such as deleting the orbital ring around one of my planets, and it is annoying. So I gotta remember not to do that. And Mars, oh, there's already an orbital ring. Doesn't need to be repaired. Why is my alloy so low? 64% crime. Is that why? Oh, whatever. Like just funny things happening, and mostly yeah, it's because of the attempt to bend the rules of reality. Okay, we gotta slow down. We gotta slow down. Okay, okay. That's a fleet. That's like 5 million. Um, yeah, whenever I get near fleets, I just don't jump because I'm clumsy and I tend to jump into the systems at exactly the time where the unbidden will be at the gateway and killing me. So I've just been waiting for the unbidden to fly into me, which has appeared to be a much more reliable strategy. So I could also just jump past them and try to make that work. But if I lose enough move speed and fire rate, I could be in big trouble, instantly lose like the 1000 nav cap I've actually had building up. So I do want to keep that. And is this my cruiser fleet? My cruiser fleet is finally coming out, and I am super curious. So I'm gonna send this straight to the deep end as soon as the timer runs out at least. And yeah, as you can see, like I don't even have to think about the ships when they fly into me. They just get mowed down by the artillery. And are these ships moving? They are moving, so they're probably going to fly into me. And I'm so curious. A 17k cruiser fleet, 19 cruisers. Can it take on an 800k starbase? I reckon it can. This is just going to sit out of range and slowly take it down. So let's take a look at the behavior here. And it just jump drives, so it doesn't want to engage anything. Makes sense. Does jump drives reduce weapons range? I'm kind of curious. Weapons range, I guess it doesn't say. But I guess it does, otherwise it would be auto-engaging, right? Anyhow, let's just go ahead and just continue to click reinforce all and everything. Yeah, wait for these ships nearby to fly into me, and yeah, they just into the into the oven. Like it is just yeah. I just gotta remember to do my physics research, by the way, as otherwise I'll get annoyed. But are these ships flying into me too? Are they just all gonna fly into me by just me staying here? In which case, that would be pretty funny. Is this thing ready to engage yet? No? Do I have to put it on aggressive? Aggressive? Yeah. Is it good? They don't. Do they have nearly the range? Do these cruisers have artillery computers? Fleet management, cruiser, ship designer, range cruisers, artillery. 120 range. Okay, I don't know why they don't have the behavior I thought, and they flew straight into the station and died. So I guess we gotta stick with battleships, as that was a complete failure. To be honest, let me DQ as many of these as possible, as I don't want any more of these because they suck. I don't know why did they fly straight into the station? Is it because I put them on aggressive? Is that why? If so, sorry. That's one of the portals was destroyed. Okay. Nice. Wow, there are so many cruisers in this fleet. I'm not going to be bothered to remake them. Can I just disband this fleet? Disband? Yeah. I think that hopefully gets rid of all the huge ships. And we'll just click reinforce on our battleships. And was it this portal that got destroyed? So we just got to take care of the other one then? That seems doable, to be honest. I don't want to fly my ships into that mess too quickly, as you know what I tend to do, and I tend to suicide my ships. But we're going to fly in carefully this time, and hopefully everything goes well. Yeah, because if we take a look at when the battleships fight, they stay at this nice little, I would say conical, but it looks more like a straight line, to be honest. And yeah, but the cruisers just flew straight in and died. Is it because cruiser weapons just don't get the same range as battleships or something? Yeah, I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't see any ships from the Unbidden, but I saw there was one thing here. So we're going to go one system at a time because our sensor range is probably not amazing, to be honest. We definitely probably could work on that. Fleet management, ship designer, dark matter reactor. Yeah, I know there's a Fallen Empire sensor, and that would probably give us the range we would need to feel comfortable. Or, of course, the good old mega structure for that. And are these ships going to come to me? Yeah, we'll just wait for them to come to me. The easy way out. And it's so slow, even on fastest. Wait, why are they turning around? I guess we'll go one system up. We'll go one system up. To be honest, I just want to beeline their portal at this point because I'm getting so bored. Let's do that. As long as we don't intersect with their ships on a hyper relay, we're good. Though somehow I feel like I'm going to do that somehow. I knew it. I knew it. That's how fast, by the way, we lost 500 plus nav cap when we're not careful. Oh my god, I'm so stupid. Honestly, the remaining ships is all we need. Go kill the portal. I'm so bored. Run. Run, ships, run. Oh, are they still fighting the station? Yeah, they're gonna take forever to kill stations now because there's only 300 nav cap of them. Towards the portal we go. If you kill the portal, does the situation end? I hope so, because I really don't want to fight and pick off all the ships. Oh, are they on our capital? Screw it. Don't care about my capital. If we die, we die. At this point, dying would be a relief because we've been playing for way too long. Way too long. I've been playing for like 3 hours straight at this point. Um, so yeah, that's longer than I normally play in a row. Um, and I'm getting tired. So yeah, hopefully we find something fun there. Oh man, why did I not be careful about that one ship? And then this is why I hate hyper relays, because the ships auto path through the hyper relays instead of through the regular um, jump points, which means they just, no matter which way the hyper lanes go, they converge on the same point, and it's annoying. And I hate it. Oh shoot. Good thing they engaged here, as this will give me a chance to cancel their movement orders so that this ship flies into us. Oh, but they're going to fly into the hyper relay, and, well, they hit one volley into us, and the kiting behaviors will save us. Or two, and there goes another 100 nav cap. Rip. I hate hyper relays. I hate hyper relays. Next time I find a crisis, hopefully it's before the AIs get hyper relays, because man, I don't like them. Ah. Okay, 304 nav cap left. That's all we need, from what I can tell. Um, oh man, it's such a pain. I hate hyper relay. I guess the way to circumnavigate this is, instead of flying through the hyper relays, it would just be to manually move your ships one system at a time through not hyper relays, and that would work. That would work just fine. Otherwise, see your ships sit on the hyper relay point, and you can't really move them around. I guess they're kind of spread out, but like any ship would come into melee range of that would just nuke us. And yep, there goes another 100 nav cap, if not more. Um, and well, we definitely got bombarded a bit. Once again, if we die, we die. I don't care. We're going for the portal. Um, I guess I made this by accident a more exciting end, because just dominating the crisis is a little boring, but I definitely made it interesting by skill issuing. And wow, even their ship is surviving. Would you look at that? But yeah, it looks like you could beat the unbidden with like zero nav cap. If you're, I wonder what is the lowest nav cap you could use to beat an unbidden crisis. Because to me, it looks like you could beat it with like 100 nav cap of Enigma battle cruisers, which would be freaking hilarious. Um, if you manage to pull that off without taking any losses, it's probably possible, to be honest. Um, it'll just take a long time, that's for sure. Anyhow, I think we should be pretty safe now. Most of our ships are not that close to the hyper relay, and there's some, like this guy. Like, you're just waiting to die. Like, and oh, there we go. Is that the portal? Um, I don't think that counts as being the crisis, but I might count that because I'm getting really tired and I need to go to sleep soon. So yeah. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this funny one system challenge where we skill issued down to 200 nav cap. Other than that, oh, look at what happened to our fleet capacity. But yeah. Oh wow, all these ships are all these things are ready to build to max capacity too. It's just an issue of build speed at this point. It's like, can we beat the Oh, now we have 8 nav cap. So yeah, you gotta be careful. But like flying through hyperlanes without checking them it seems to be the only thing that can cause you to lose ships, to be honest. Otherwise, you kite them forever. It's just a matter of not getting bored. But anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. It was pretty fun to record. Maybe next time I won't do these crisis challenges, just because I don't like fighting the crisis. It takes so long. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.